This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
And welcome everybody to episode 97 of the Animaniacs.
My agent? You mean Manny? I thought he died.
You said it was your career that died.
Sounds like Manny. What's he got for me?
A network show.
On the WB?
No, a real network show.
Now there's your comedy.
And welcome once again to the Animaniacs. We're the only podcast out there that's dedicated to the animated television series, Animaniacs. And here we explore the series, episode by episode. We talk about all the cultural references and all the gags, and well, at least all the ones we feel like talking about. And then in the end, we give each episode a water tower rating. I am Joey. And joining me, once again, is my brother Nathan.
Oh, do you mind if I sit over there?
What? Okay. No, don't. Stop it, Nathan. In case you couldn't tell, Nathan's here in the same room with me. But joining us across the country, in Georgia, it's Kelly.
Hello.
Hello, Kelly. Well, we're recording this episode in my old bedroom. My parents' house. This is so weird. After the holidays, you know, all these things going on, and Nathan's still here, or he's back and forth anyway.
Yeah,
You can't go away, Nathan.
I'm leaving tomorrow.
So you say.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, he's here once again. So it's like old times. Like Nathan and I are here, and then Kelly's still in Georgia. So
Yeah, just like old times.
just like old times. Well, today we are talking about episode 97 of Animaniacs, and it features the segments The Carpool and The Sunshine Squirrels. And, if someone were to ask you about this episode in a few words, what would you tell them? Let's start with you, Kelly.
I never want to ride in the car with the Warners.
I can't blame you for that. That goes without saying. I would not want to carpool with these guys. First you take them to their little kids, and now they're carpooling all of a sudden. Anyway, Nathan, what do you think about it?
I would never want to co-star with Slappy the Squirrel on a TV show.
Well, before we get into our discussion of today's episode, let's go ahead and talk about, last week's episode. We had the Goodfeathers reunion episode.
Wow, just crowd cheering. Wow, this is weird.
How did they get in here? Well, it was quite something else. And if you, for some weird reason, haven't listened to that episode yet, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, that episode's going to be a lot better than this one.
Well, our last episode was just, really a lot of fun to put out there. And we got a lot of great feedback. And we also want to make sure that everybody knows that there's a contest as well that you should be aware of. And Kelly, why don't you tell us, what is this contest all about?
Well, the prize, which is the best part, is you get this really awesome QMX figure of the Goodfeathers, and it's signed. Who is it signed by, Joey?
It's signed by Maurice LaMarche, Chick Vennera, John Mariano, and Tom Ruegger. So this is I don't know how much the value of this would be, but it's got to be
At least $20.
at least $20 because the figure itself is like $20, $30. So you got to figure putting on those signatures, it's got to be at least worth $35 or something, right? Maybe.
Yeah, at least 20.
No, this is an incredibly valuable thing, obviously, because these gentlemen had not been together in the same room for over 21 years. So this is really quite a great collectible for any Animaniacs fan out there. So Nathan, tell us, what do we have to do if somebody out there wants to win this?
Oh man, it's super easy. All you have to do is go onto iTunes and give this podcast, the Animaniacs, a 5-star rating and a little comment saying, "I love you guys," or something like that.
Something along those lines. and then they will be able to be in the contest.
And that'll be at the end of this month. We'll find someone, so we'll announce it probably first week of February. I assume.
Yeah, or at the end of January, whatever comes first.
Something right in that area. So you make sure you get it in soon.
I don't have a calendar in front of me, so I don't know exact release schedule. Whatever the closest Sunday is to
gotta get it in before the end of January, because it might be too late by then.
Get it in as soon as possible, essentially. And some of our recent reviews, I want to make sure I review, or at least I read some of the reviews from some of our longer listeners. One of them is Curtis Findley, who gave us a 5-star review. He said, "This is not only the best Animaniacs podcast out there, but it is actually the only Animaniacs podcast out there. Entertaining and educational reviews, plus many conversations with Tom Ruegger and many writers and voice actors. Top quality stuff." And then he says, "Bring back Mr. Announcer." We'll see about that. I'm not a big fan of him myself.
I love him. I would love him to come back, but
we'll see what happens with that. Anyway, the other review that we got recently was from another longtime listener, and that's from Malik, who is the cartoon gamer, of course. So these are two of our Canadian listeners. Malik says, fabulous. Aha. A great listen for anyone who considers themselves a fan of the Animaniacs. Nathan, Joey, and Kelly take a thorough look at each episode, going over their favorite jokes, eventful events that took place during said episode's premiere, and even take a look at other media like the comics. Their passion for this series has even netted them guest stars, ranging from voice actors to writers and the series creator himself. All wrapped up in a nice, digestible, hour-long ride every time. What's not to love? I ask you people.
I don't know.
Well,
we don't want them to answer that.
No, don't answer that question. I'm sure you can come up with many things with not to love, but we're not coming up with it. So leave your 5-star positive review and rating over there on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. It's very easy if you have an iPhone. It's a little harder if you don't. You have to go download the iTunes app on your computer and do that. But you can still, hey.
It's doable, and it's worth the figure for sure.
It's definitely worth the figure. It's definitely worth it. And we do appreciate it very much because it does help out our podcast quite a bit with visibility so that other people can see this podcast as well.
Shut up. That's John Mariano. He's the voice of Bobby from the Goodfeathers. And you're listening to the Animaniacast. Will you untie me now? Shh, go it. I'm listening to the program.
Well, before we get into our discussion for today, Nathan, tell us, when did this episode first premiere?
Oh boy, okay, you may remember this day because it was a February day. It was in 1998. It was a Saturday. Nothing?
No.
All right, well, it was February 21st, 1998, and it was, of course, just 1 week after the release of The Wedding Singer.
Okay.
Sphere.
All right.
The Borrowers.
I know of it.
I know,
like the Littles.
It was 2 days after the release of Gex, Enter the Gecko for N64 and PS1. We never got it, but it's a game. And it was just 3 days before Elton John was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II.
Well, there you go.
So now you remember that day.
I remember Fear. It was a much better book than movie.
Yeah, I was going to say, I liked the book quite a bit. It was kind of like a nice creepy thing, and then I went and saw that, and I honestly don't remember much from the movie other than...
Me neither.
Well, there was a sphere in it.
There was a sphere.
There was jellyfish.
There was Dustin Hoffman, a sphere, and Queen Latifah.
Wasn't Sharon Stone in it?
Oh, yeah, I guess Sharon Stone was in it, too. Back when Sharon Stone was like, she could pull an audience in or something for...
I just remember lots of jellyfish.
Yeah, a lot of jellyfish. Watch out for jellyfish when you're Queen Latifah. That's all I have to say. But it's a decent movie, but yeah, definitely not. I mean, Wedding Singer, that's definitely become a kind of a classic.
Yeah,
over
that's
the years.
my favorite Adam Sandler movie.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right, so some nice movies came out at that time. Well, let's go ahead and get into our discussion of today's episode. Before we get into our discussion, of course, we have to talk about our favorite segment, of course, Newsreel of the Stars.
No comment.
of the Stars.
Yeah, Newsreel of the Stars was there. And, that's, right away they didn't have much to do. It's a great way to fill time on these episodes. I really wish they had the time or the budget or something to do, I don't know, something, a chicken boo or something else, right?
Yeah, good idea, bad idea would be fun.
I think by this time everybody, at the time that this episode finally showed in 1998, we're in the last few episodes of Animaniacs. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure everybody knows who the Warners are at this point. But I'm sure that this was probably cut out in reruns and everything, and just I'm sure more like commercials. Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network, I'm sure appreciated. Ooh, we can just run more commercials now! Yay! Well, let's go ahead and get into our real discussion, though. The first one is the carpool. And the carpool was written by Nick Dubois and Randy Rogel. It was directed by Stephen Lewis. Nathan, tell us what happens here in the carpool.
All right, well, we got a return of our favorite trio here. It's Ed, Phil, and Jan. They're driving to go on a carpool to pick up the Warners.
Morning, Phil. Morning, Jan.
Morning, Ed. Anybody know the new carpoolers?
No, we're supposed to pick them up in front of a water tower. It's around the corner.
Excuse me. Morning, Ken.
Sorry about that.
Hi, Ed. Oops, coming through.
Hey, how's the missus, Phil?
Look out. Oh, pardon me.
Good to see you guys.
But, the Warners, they're not great in a carpool, apparently. Ed's in the back seat, and he is getting climbed over. He's trying to read his newspaper. The Warners keep taking it from him. And then they start playing with the seatbelts and tie him all up. He gets so frustrated, he throws the Warners in the front seat and has Jan come to the back with him. Ed and Jan, classic Ed and Jan going on.
Jan, get in the back with me.
Oh, for goodness sake, Ed, don't have a hissy fit.
Hello, business lady nurse.
Let's go.
But then we got Yakko and Dot in the front seat, and they're pushing the seat back, and there's no leg room anymore. Oh, it's terrible.
Hey, this is neat.
What's this button do?
Oh yeah, that's a lot better. Would you look at all the leg room?
He's going to switch again. Now he's in the front seat. And we got Jan in the back with Wakko, Yakko, and Dot. You're picturing it. Good. And then they start messing around. They start playing tag. I think they probably do stuff before this, too. But they start playing tag because they're like, oh, we could play a game. That's fine. But things get really ruckus, and they cover up Phil's eyes with the hat, which is super dangerous, kids. Don't do this.
No.
I didn't think this was very funny because I'm like, they're all going to get in a car accident. This is terrible. So Phil gets really frustrated. He says, guys, no more playing back there. Someone keeps honking the horn. He gets out and says, stop honking. I'm going to beat you up. And it's a cop. So he gets thrown in jail. Luckily, Jan and Ed have enough money to bail him out. And then they finally get to work. And it turns out the Warners aren't even going to work. They just wanted free ice cream, because that's the incentive that you get for carpooling. And they're going to come back and pick up Ed, Phil, and Jan later, and they're going to be driving. So it's going to be really scary there.
And you can relax on the way home. It's our turn to drive.
Yeah, I'm surprised after all that there was still time to actually work at the end of the day. It seemed like, especially going to jail.
Oh, yeah.
That would tie up most of your day, I would think. But
and I forgot Wakko has a whole incident of getting carsick, throwing up on the seat, and have to go to the car wash and clean it. Oh,
that was perhaps the funniest part.
Yeah, it was probably funny, and I forgot about it.
I have to go to the party.
Why did you go before you got in the car?
I did.
And you have to go again?
No.
Then what's the problem?
I'm gonna be carsick.
Hurry up, get out!
Never mind, it's okay now.
Are you sure?
Yep. You're not going to throw up in the car?
No.
How do you know?
Because I already did.
Did he get it on the carpet?
No, just your seat.
You know?
How could you forget the funniest part? I was gonna say, Nathan. Well, when it comes to, cultural references and stuff, there's not really much other than Kelly, did you see who voiced the role of Ed in this episode?
No, I did not.
It is got Stuart Pankin. I believe that's how, or Pankin. Either way you pronounce his name. He's the voice of Earl Sinclair on Dinosaurs.
Oh, I remember the dinosaurs.
Not the mama.
I don't know. That show, I remember liking it, but not loving it as a kid. Like, it's one of those shows I remember watching because
it's enjoyable, but
it looked cool, but it wasn't necessarily a good show. I don't know what to say about Dinosaurs.
It had a really depressing series finale.
It really, really did.
I don't know if I ever actually saw it, but it's always like, it's famous for its...
I feel like we've had this conversation already.
Probably, but like that's what the show's known for. It's that.
Yeah, it's known for that, and it's known for not the mama and depressing ending where everybody dies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was the dinosaurs. You kind of knew how it was going to end.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, still.
They didn't have to show it.
That'd be like Titanic without the ship sinking.
Like, yeah, but then Flintstones didn't end that show with like, they're cavemen, so they're dead now.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I remember Dinosaurs, the whole show had a very weird vibe to it, where it was always kind of like, it was funny, but not funny at the same time. It was such a weird show.
I just felt like it was The Simpsons as dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Like, even the caricatures of them seemed
similar. They looked like there was a Bart character and a Lisa character, and they both they were just older. But, yeah. Anyway, that's Dinosaurs. So, yeah, a little Earl Sinclair, connection right there. The actor himself, actually, I think he's been in quite a few things. I want to say he was in, like one of the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids movies. I think the third one or something like that. And he was
Honey, I Shrunk Ourselves?
Yeah, Honey, I Shrunk Ourselves. I think it was the third one, wasn't it?
That's the third one?
Yeah. And then he was like in a show, not necessarily the news, which I remember watching in the 80s as a little kid. A show that I probably shouldn't have been watching, but it was kind of like the Daily Show back in the 80s. Anyway, so that was something kind of cool. When it comes to references, that's pretty much it. So what are some of the gags? We already talked about the throw-up part, but Kelly, was there anything else in this that you thought was particularly amusing?
I thought it was funny. The guy in the back seat was trying to read the paper, and they like, oh, are you finished with the entertainment section? They took all the different parts of the newspaper, and then when he finally got it back, Dot had clipped out the coupons.
Yeah.
So there were all these holes in it, and then he crumbled it up, and Wakko said, are you going to eat that? He's like, no, why would I eat that? And he's like, well, I'll eat it. He's like, why would you eat that?
Are you going to eat that, Ed?
What? No!
May I?
No! Why would you eat it?
It's just my own special way of recycling.
So I thought that was funny.
Yeah. Yeah, it did remind me a little bit of just driving with kids in the car to begin with. Mm-hmm. And no seatbelts. Do you notice when they were like, driving all crazy because what's his face? What was the third? Wasn't Ned or Ed or what it was?
It was Ed, Phil, and Jan.
Phil. So when they put the thing
you
over,
don't remember this.
These classic characters of Ed, Phil, and Jan. But when Phil had the hat on his head and he's all swerving around the place and they're just kind of like flying back and forth in the seats. And I was like, hey, where's your seatbelts?
I think Phil should have waited to start driving until everyone had their seatbelt on.
There you go. Oh, well. But yeah, it was a pretty decent cartoon though, right? I mean, it did have a slightly amusing good night everybody joke with pick your seats.
Mm-hmm. Are we allowed to do that on TV? The Ted Turner joke.
Yes.
Wakko's laughing at the newspaper. It's just a picture of Ted Turner.
Yeah.
And then I like when Yakko comes over and starts laughing too.
Yeah. There was good stuff in it. It wasn't the best one that we've seen, but really it's the last time that the Warners are kind of doing their thing.
Yeah, it's the last time we see Ed, Phil, and Jan for sure.
Yes. Jan, by the way, looked very familiar. She's come up a couple times in the series as various background characters. She played the tough Miss Moichner, whatever her name was in La La La. Yeah, so she's and she even kind of looks like the secretary to Mr. Plotz a little bit, doesn't she? I don't know. So she just maybe she has twins or triplets in Burbank. I don't know. Well, anyway, any other things we want to say about this first part?
I don't like that Ed had to pay for the car washing, like on Phil's car. It's kind of weird. I mean, it was Wakko's fault, but Ed's paying. And
well, they don't have any pants, so they can't pay. Well, actually, Yakko has pants. Never mind.
I would think Phil would buy it, but I guess Phil's driving. I don't know. It's Phil's car. He would want... I don't know. I thought it was weird. I felt bad for Ed, kind of, in this whole thing.
I felt kind of bad for all three of the adults in this, but whatever. That's why I never carpool.
Stay tuned for these words from our lovely sponsor.
Way to kiss up, Dot.
According to legend, General Grievous was known to boast of the number of lightsabers he had acquired from the bodies of his slain Jedi enemies. Grievous was the first in a long tradition of collectors of rare items. A tradition that continues to this day on the Retro Zap podcast known as the Dork Lair.
Dork Lair.
The kids of the 70s and 80s are all grown up, but the good times of childhood don't have to end.
Our generation can share the fun and fandom of our youth with the next generation and bring the past into the future.
And wrap it all up to make a fantastic present.
Join Jedi Schwa and Chef's Bazaar every Monday morning to get your work week started by reminiscing about the past and exploring the future with your earbuds on Techno Retro Dads.
So find us on iTunes, Facebook, Twitter, or on RetroZap.com. Part of the RetroZap Network.
Now at McDonald's, the Animaniacs are back.
And we're wackier than ever.
We really shouldn't be such strangers.
That's right. Let me extend my greetings.
Now you can get a break and your kids get their favorite characters with the Animaniacs Hamburger Happy Meal for just $1.99. You can bend them, push them, squish them, or stretch them.
Wait a minute. Is that in our contract?
One with each Happy Meal you buy your kids, just $1.99.
I'm stuffed. I couldn't eat another hamburger. Now that's a stretch.
You had your break today.
Well, let's go ahead and move on to our next segment then, and it is called The Sunshine Squirrels.
Hi, this is Sherry Stoner, and you're listening to the Animaniacast.
And The Sunshine Squirrels was written by Kevin Hops, and it was directed by Russell Calabrese and Stephen Lewis. And Kelly, why don't you tell us what happens here in The Sunshine Squirrels?
Skippy informs Slappy that he's got some news for her, and he puts all of her explosives in the closet, and she wants to know why, and he tells her that he doesn't want her doing anything rash when she finds out what the news is.
So why are you hiding all my explosives in the closet?
I didn't want you to do anything drastic.
And why would I? She asked as if she cared.
Well, you see, the network wants you to perform the restaurant sketch with your old partner, Susie Squirrel.
I don't work with partners. I'm a single. I've always been a single.
Now, everyone knows you paired up with Susie in a few films in the 30s.
Jack Warner made me do it.
The films were very popular.
It was a disaster.
Slappy's not very excited about this because she apparently doesn't like Susie Squirrel, and then Susie shows up, and we find out why, because Susie's pretty awful.
So, how you doing, Slapster? Manny told me things haven't been easy for you since we split up. Oh, I can see by the looks of this dump he was being too kind.
First of all, Susie, those cheeks you were pinching belong to my nephew, Skippy. Second, if you weren't so vain, you'd wear glasses so you could see this ain't no dump.
She's just not a nice person, and, Slappy's, she's got her own peculiarities, but she's sort of endearing, too. We love Slappy. But Susie, no, I would not want to be on a show with her either.
Yeah.
So they start rehearsing, and it doesn't go great, but then they do the show, and it's live. And Slappy had told her not to do any ad-libbing, and she does anyway. And so Susie starts plugging in her own lines, and...
Oh, waiter, I'd like to talk to the maitre d'.
There is no maitre d' in this sketch.
I said, waiter, I'd like to talk to the maitre d'.
Fine, I'll get him. Okay, I'm the maitre d'. Happy?
Yes, I'd like a table with a view.
There, you have a view of your feet.
The performance gets crazier and crazier because now they're blowing things up, and the producer is stressing because his job's on the line, and he tells the director that his job's on the line, and so they're really anxious about what's going on, and ultimately the whole set gets blown up. I mean, it is a Slappy cartoon, and but fortunately the ratings were through the roof, and everyone's excited, and there's dollar signs in the producer's eyes, and or TV exec. I think he was a TV exec instead of a producer, but they're talking about on the entertainment shows, and they keep calling him Susie and Slappy.
The ratings went through the roof for last night's comic reunion of Susie and Slappy Squirrel.
That's Slappy and Susie.
Sure it is. And every advertiser in town is calling to sign on. America loves Susie and Slappy.
Here, enjoy.
Thanks so much.
And then Skippy says that's comedy.
Or is it? Yeah. Skippy has a great line right there at the end, of course, kind of like a Jerry Maguire thing, which show me the money or something. I don't know.
We know, Crop Babe. We know. Now show us the money.
It was funny. I was a little shocked to find that this was actually an episode that Skippy's voice was pitched. I didn't notice it.
I did.
Nathan noticed it. Did you notice this at all?
I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
No, I took special focus of his voice because I thought, oh, well, it's probably sound weird in this episode because it's a much later episode, but it sounded fine to me.
Yeah, I thought it sounded fine to me, but Nathan was like every line, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, most of the time it sounds fine, like, but I can tell it's pitched, but, like, you know, it just reminds me of I Got Your Can, that one neighbor.
Well...
Sound like he was speaking a little faster at times.
Yeah, a little bit.
I did notice that, but other, the pitch sounded just like, I mean, maybe if I compared it to an older episode side by side, I could notice the difference, but I couldn't tell.
Speaking of going a little faster and everything, I watched this episode, I guess, 3 times. So I watched it a few days ago, and then I watched it 2 times today. And the second time I watched it, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get through this episode a little bit faster. So I played the episode at 1.5 speed.
Nice.
And it seemed a little funnier. It seemed like a little like fresher, and just the timing just kind of felt a little slow.
Yeah.
On this Slappy Squirrel one, didn't it?
Yeah, I would think that playing it at faster would help it a lot.
Yeah, because there's just these gaps of just like nothing is going on, and the jokes aren't necessarily bad, but they're kind of, they're not.
The payoff's not worth the time it takes to say them.
Yeah. Well, we should note that Phyllis Diller was the voice of what's her name again? It's not. Is it Susie Squirrel? Susie Squirrel. Yeah. And Phyllis Diller was just one of those comedians that I remember seeing in the 80s and the 90s. It's just she always looked the same, just this old woman who would be an old comedian. I can't
tell you what I saw her in, but I saw her a lot.
Yeah. Well, she was in A Bug's Life. She played the queen, I know, in that. And she was in, I think she was in like Scooby-Doo episodes and stuff like that. Various things. But yeah, always like on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson and stuff like that. I remember seeing a little documentary on her, or maybe it was just a news report on her about 5-10 years ago. Before she passed, they went to her house, and she had a whole filing drawer of just jokes and one-liners, and she was very serious about comedy and everything. So
Sounds like she's very organized too.
Yes. Yeah, it was I think it was like almost like a card catalog. Remember those in the library?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she had them filled with just jokes. She could open
I
them
want
up
a card
and
catalog in my house.
what, you want one or you have one?
I want one. No, I don't have one, but I would love one.
I hear they're really good for organizing CDs. Some people or I don't know if that would be too small for a CD, but I don't know.
I don't know, but they look cool and they're library-esque, so...
It'd be good, like, if you could, like, shorten it and then just make it into a table or something like that. I don't know. I used to have one at my elementary school that I used to remember using all the time. And the librarian was very strict about how to use it. But, but when it comes to cultural references, there's a quick throw-off thing or two, What's My Line? Where he's flipping over cards, and that was like an old game show from the 1950s. I'm assuming Phyllis Diller was probably on that at some point. But that was kind of a show of people would kind of guess the occupation of somebody, I believe. I never really watched it that much. It was on reruns from time to time.
Whose line is it anyway?
Sort of, yeah. And I did, they were clapping their hands a little bit for the clapper to make things go. So, today we ask Alexa to turn on our lights, but back then in the 90s, it was the clapper. What were you saying, Nathan?
The Postman.
Oh, yeah, they also had the Postman reference right there, which I don't remember seeing the Postman with Kevin Costner.
I was like, this is going over my head.
Yeah. All I remember from Postman was that it followed Waterworld, and it was also a flop. Like, Kevin Costner could not get a break in the late 90s for whatever reason. Hey, Robin Hood was good.
I'd love Robin Hood.
Yeah. Yeah. She had a great non-British accent in that movie.
It's perfect.
Could you imagine how weird that movie would be, though, if Kevin Costner actually did try a British accent?
It would have been a bomb. So.
Oh, man. It would have been not good. But anyway, they showed, I guess one of the highlights for me, I was looking at the artwork for the squirrel, the cartoons that Susie Squirrel and Slappy Squirrel made together. And according to Skippy, they were in the 30s. And one of them was called, and I wrote these things down, Squirrely Girls, and directed by Sparky Calamari. And then there was Nutty Nurses, directed by Skeets Edwards. And then there was USO No, directed by Lance Boyle. And I'm assuming that these didn't just take part in the 1930s, because for it to be USO No with Buy Your Bonds here, it would have to take place during World War II. So, takes place in the 30s, late 30s.
That was the last show.
It was the USO No. And it all fell apart. Anyway, what were some of the moments that you guys kind of liked about this second cartoon? Kelly, let's go with you.
I thought it was funny when Skippy hid her explosives in the closet because he knew.
Yeah.
He knows his aunt.
Nathan, what about you?
Slappy kept saying she wouldn't do the thing, but then when she got offered more money, she was quite apt to do the things. So that was cute, I guess. I don't know.
They did have good improv ability, though. When Susie decided to change things, Slappy came up with some pretty good ways to give her a table with a view and things like that. I thought that was cool. Now, Nathan has a little bit connection here to the original source material.
Yes.
Because this, of course, is parroting the Sunshine Boys.
Yeah, did we not mention that yet?
No, we haven't mentioned that.
Because that's probably the biggest cultural reference.
Probably. But anyway, it's the Neil Simon play, The Sunshine Boys, which is about these two vaudeville guys who were brought out of retirement.
Because their nephew, like one of the nephews
the nephew,
is like,
So the nephew says, you got to get together and get on this TV show that's live. It's this exact plot, basically. Nathan's wife was in this play.
Mm-hmm. She played the sexy nurse, which is not a role in this cartoon, but they could have brought Hello Nurse in.
Exactly, to just like bring the whole thing.
Although it
really wouldn't work with Slappy and Susie, but she could have just been walking. Maybe she could have. I don't know. I guess it couldn't work.
Couldn't really work.
Well, anyway,
still, it's a interesting play. I saw it a couple times because my wife was in it. So
yeah. So, but it's a funny play.
Mm-hmm.
And this was reasonably funny. Wasn't both of these two cartoons today? It's like they're not funny, but they're not hilarious at the same time.
Exactly.
Too. I really suggest watching this cartoon for anybody at 1.5 speed. It really helps
get
out
through it as quick as possible.
Just tightens things up just a little bit. Kelly, any last thoughts on the Sunshine Squirrels?
Nope.
All right. Well, it's that time again. It's time for not the Wheel of Morality, our Water Tower rating. Well, let's talk about a water tower rating, guys. Out of 5 water towers, how many water towers would you give this episode? Nathan, let's start with you.
I'll go with 2.5 water towers.
All right, 2.5. Why is that?
I mean, it has a newsreel of stars. I feel like I should be going lower, but you know what? 2.5. That's why. But yeah, it's not like an amazing episode. And it's fine. I guess I kind of want to go 3 weeks in a row of giving 2.5.
Oh, really? This will be the third in a row.
Yeah,
2.5. Well, how nice for you. Kelly, what about you?
I'm gonna go with 3. I agree that it was funny, but it wasn't hilarious, like what you said earlier. It was fine, and as we all know, when a woman says it's fine, it's not as good as it could be.
Yeah, and I'll go with 3 as well. I mean, it was perfectly fine, but also perfectly, in the long run, perfectly skippable when it comes to episodes of Animaniacs. It's harmless. It's not like I go, oh, this is so bad. It's just, it's okay. It's all right.
Feel bad for Ed.
No, poor Ed. Also, I think he has a toupee, doesn't he?
Yep.
He's bald, too. It
just never catches a break,
I know.
They should have had a spin-off of Ed, Phil, and Jan.
Oh, the Ed, Phil, and Jan show.
Maybe they can bring that back.
Okay.
We'll talk to Tom Ruegger about that.
Fun.
Yeah. And now that, the WB is gone, maybe you can actually get on like a real network,
It's good.
Well, let's go ahead and get to our contact information. Nathan, where can people reach you online?
Oh, Joey, I'm on Twitter. I'm pretty sure I told you this.
No, you have?
Like about 100 or so times. But Django FT, that's me.
And Kelly, what about you?
I'm on Twitter at Yoda Princess, YODAPRNCSS, or email me, Kelly, at BigShinyRobot.com.
All right, and as for the Animaniacast, you can reach us on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. And hey, we just passed 800 likes on Facebook. So, that's
You're
a lot of
welcome.
People. Yeah, thank you for liking us. Let's see if we can hit 1,000 by I don't know, the end of the week. Why not? Right?
Yeah,
it's totally doable. And of course, we are a proud member of the RetroZap Network. Head on over to retrozap.com to see a full list of everything pop culture. A lot of Star Wars. So if you love Star Wars like we do, then there's great articles to read and podcasts such as Starship Sabers and Scoundrels and the flagship podcast Brews and Blasters. There's also comics reviews, and there's tons of podcasts on the podcast network, whether it's video games or movies or just, techno retro things like the Techno Retro Dads. There's always something you can check out over at retrozap.com. Well, that'll do it for today's episode. So, for Nathan and Kelly, this is Joey saying good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
This podcast is not endorsed by Warner Brothers or Amblin Entertainment and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Animaniacs, the Warner Brothers logo, all names, pictures, and sounds of the Animaniacs characters or any other Animaniacs-related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Warner Brothers, Amblin Entertainment, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of the Animaniacast unless otherwise indicated.
Boo! Comedy rule number 26. Surprise your audience. Heh. Now there's edutainment for you.